Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This week we have a interview. We have an old friend, or at least an old friend to me, Devin McGuire. He is one of the owners of Jimminy Peak Chimney Sweep. I also have Tom Blass here as always. How you doing, guys?
Fabulous. How you doing?
What's going on?
Doing very well. I actually feel this is like a high school reunion for me because I graduated with two friends from my graduating class, and you're two people outside my graduating class, and I knew you since high school. So this is like a reunion for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Devin, you are owner of Jimminy Peak Chimneys. Tell me a little bit about the company. It started in 1977, quite some time ago. Tell me the story.
So my father, he had a business partner, and then my dad ended up just taking over the whole thing. And my dad's been doing it for over 40 years. I worked with him all through high school, weekends. So actually, I've been working with my dad since I was 10. I remember putting in chimneys. Don't call labor services on that one. But yeah, I worked for him all through high school and escaped, went away for college. And then finally my dad was like, listen, probably going to close the business down unless you want to come back and work for me. So that's what I did. I came back, and I've been back 8 years now, and I'm taking it over. Slowly purchasing it from him. He won't just give it to me. I got to buy
it. Gotta put the money in.
That's the right way. That's the right way. Teaching how to be responsible.
Well, that's part of the thing, like if you just hand someone something, they just, can squander it, so I'm definitely paying over market value for it, but I look at it as I'm adding to my inheritance one day, hopefully. So,
Yeah, and you're helping your dad retire. So that's perfect.
Exactly. So yeah, no, it's great.
So obviously, I'm not going to ask you how old were you when you first went on a roof, but how old were you when you got comfortable being on a roof? Because I'm still petrified of roofs. Like, I will not go on the roof. I tell everyone in the house that I'm at now, we're never going on the roof. Like, I'm petrified of the roof.
I mean, I don't know the first time I went on a roof. I was definitely young. I remember, like I said, I remember putting in a chimney when I was 10. Comfortable on roofs? I'm still not comfortable on roofs. Obviously, like a flat one-story flat roof is super easy no matter what, but there's still roofs that you get onto, or like we run a lot of equipment, like boom lifts. And anytime I go up in a boom lift, I'm shaking the whole time the first time I go up because they're terrifying. I don't like heights.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing because there are some like 3-story homes in Kingston, like some of these 100-year-old homes. They're 3-4 stories. I mean, they got you can walk up 3 flights of stairs, and then you got that attic, which now you're, I don't know, how many feet up? Like what's the
if you're guesstimating it, you're looking at 8 to 10 feet a story. So you kind of shoot for like the 10 so that you're a little bit high, and you got to take account for the attic and all that stuff too. But yeah, you're looking at 10 foot a story.
Yeah. And the pitch on some of the roofs on the older houses is pretty serious.
Well, that's the thing. Like like Chris was saying there in Kingston, those 3-4 story old houses in Kingston, they all have super steep roofs with horrible access. A lot of the old houses actually have a trap door through the attic onto the roof, and those are great. But roofers today just roof over the top of them and seal them off. Why? I don't know.
You got to make their jobs easier too.
Yeah, I don't know why they're doing. Whether it's just it's easier to access a roof from. Well, a lot of them too were ladders. Everyone didn't have ladders back when these houses were built. I go in houses that were built in the 1700s, so they would put in access.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're in very, very crazy times. You bought a house right around the beginning of COVID, right? So you were very, very lucky. Apparently, Kingston, New York, and the Hudson Valley as a whole is booming right now. First off, how happy are you that you closed on your house before all of this?
Listen, I'll tell you, it's not the nicest house, but I do love it. It needs a lot of work, but we knew that coming into it. But I'm super happy because there's nothing else remotely close to the price that we paid.
I mean, dude, do you realize that in area, they're going on the market and their offers probably over asking plus in 1 or 2 days? I have a client that wants to buy in the Hudson Valley, surrounding areas, even in the Catskills, and these houses aren't even on the market for a week. They're going over asking, which is absolutely insane. And it's people from the city that are migrating up there. So it kind of brings me to my next question. So people coming from the city going into Hudson Valley. So I'm going to give you a hypothetical.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm a 6'1" privileged white man with a job on the exchange. I got a great looking Italian wife from Staten Island, 2 kids, one's 4, one's 7. I want to buy a home in the Hudson Valley. We find a nice, beautiful 2-story single family home built in the 1940s. My offer gets accepted. I'm super happy. I'm going to do a general inspection.
Yes.
So my inspector comes in. Now you don't do general inspections, correct?
No, not a general inspection.
Okay.
No, we're strictly chimney related things.
So my general inspector is in the house.
Yep.
I know nothing. Okay. I work from 7 a.m. to 9:00 at night. So my inspector's in there and he writes up the inspection report basically saying you need to refer to a professional to get a chimney inspection, correct? These inspectors are not doing a thorough chimney inspection. They're just looking in to make sure they can see a light at the top of the chimney, correct?
No, not even.
So what is a general inspector doing?
The general inspector they're supposed to be looking at everything, right? But let's be real, there's so much in a house to look at that they can't actually find every problem. Like I get a lot of those inspections passed on to our office and people say, hey, they said call a chimney sweep. Right. And so I read these inspections all the time and it'll say your chimney's dirty. It needs to be cleaned. Call a chimney sweep. Did he poke his head in? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he just, a lot of them have iPads now. Maybe he just clicked the button to cover his ass.
But that's really all they're saying, right? They're
just but the thing is, like,
get a sweep.
Yeah, but I do go out to house. A lot of them are either sweeps or caps or masonry and repairs, which the majority of times when an inspector says that you need that stuff, now this isn't always, but the majority of the times the inspector's wrong. And you probably have some other problem.
And it's more than just a sweep. It's more than just a cleaning, right?
Right. So, I mean, the thing is, if you have a wood stove or you have a fireplace or you have an oil burner that's not directly vented out the wall, or you have a gas unit that's not directly vented out the wall, you have a chimney. And the chimney is the most overlooked part of the house because no one sees it. It's inside a wall somewhere. No one thinks about it. No matter what, if you have any of those appliances and they're not directly vented out the wall, you need to call a chimney sweep to come in and look at it. They're not always cheap to come look and do a like real estate inspection or a level 2 inspection, which is required for a real estate transaction. But it can save you so much money once you actually get into the house. The price of parts is not cheap. And even in like the last 14 months, this industry, the price of hard goods has gone up 16%. You can rack up a bill pretty quick not knowing what's going on if you don't get an inspection done.
What's interesting is in New Jersey, because and again, I know you're in the Hudson Valley. In New Jersey, the inventory is super low and there's everyone, their mother, their brother, their sister. Actually, that's the same thing. They all want to buy houses, is really what I'm trying to say. There are so many people that want to buy houses right now. And obviously the Hudson Valley being in a boom right now, there's a lot of people that there are people going up there too. So in Jersey, I've seen a lot of inspection waivers. It's more like structural environmental. And I read a couple of articles that it's not just the Jersey thing. This is kind of happening all over the country. So even though there's a boom going on in the Hudson Valley, are you seeing a lot of people waiving their inspections to win a bid and then you're getting a call after the purchase to look at a chimney and do your initial inspection because you're waiting?
I don't know if the exact specifics on like who's waiving inspections or not, but I can tell you that there's been a large increase of people calling me up for just a regular service. They're like, oh, we have a fireplace, we burned it a bunch, we don't know anything about it. So after we burned it a bunch, we decided to call you and have you come look at it, which is a horrible idea because the majority of these places that I'm going to, these new homeowners, they have major issues with their chimneys and they've been burning fires. And, the chimney's there to vent gases. So like carbon monoxide, the silent killer, to vent gases out of the house. And then in the chance of a chimney fire, to keep the flame contained within the chimney. Again,
being an uneducated person coming from the city, I've lived in an apartment, right? Yep. So now I finally have my first house with a fireplace. I'm thinking, I'm buying a house with a fireplace. I can just throw a couple of logs in and start a fire. So even though, let's just say I waived my inspections to win the house, let's just say that's what I had to do because that is some of the bad advice people are giving their clients in order to buy a house. And listen, they wouldn't have gotten the house. So in some cases, sure.
It might actually be good advice.
It may be good advice, but is it good advice? I now bought a house. I got my inspection. I did my regular, but I didn't call you for my chimney inspection. So now that I own the house, how smart is it for me to just, clearly I'm not cutting down a tree and gathering my own wood. I'm buying my wood. So I'm buying my wood and I'm throwing it in the fireplace and I'm about to start a fire. How wrong am I to do that? Tell me some of the nightmare stories of people like me that don't do a chimney sweep and boom, I start a fire.
So this couple, they did not they did not get an inspection before they bought their house, right? They called me in for a service because they had a couple fires and they thought it was a smart idea for me to come in and clean it. And I look up the flue. It is absolutely filthy. Like there's so much creosote in that flue. If any flame got up into the flue out of the firebox into the flue, they would have had a problem if it ignited, right? They would have a major chimney fire. They'd only had a hand of fires, so I know the amount of creosote in there was not from them. So problem number one right there. Problem number two, I clean the chimney, and when I get all that creosote out, I'm looking at the flue tile, and there's massive chunks of flue tile missing, and I'm looking through the flue tile at the masonry chimney behind it. If there was that chimney fire, a pathway for that flame to go. So it's very important to have it inspected. And so National Fire Protection Association is kind of like the governing body. There's also IRC, which is building code, but National Fire Protection Association, which is NFPA code 211, says that every flue should be inspected yearly. And that's, I stand by that 100%, because say you own the house and you've been in the house for years, and you use the fireplace every winter, you want to have it inspected to make sure, a bird didn't build a nest over the summer, or a squirrel build a nest over the summer, and it's blocking the flue. Because
what's a flue?
Okay, so you have a fireplace, right?
Right.
So you have the fireplace opening, and that's the firebox. And then you have a chimney, and the flue is inside the chimney. The flue is like the straw that the smoke goes up out the chimney. So it's the inside of the chimney.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So the flue is usually like terracotta tile, which are those square orange tiles that you might see kicking around someone's yard that are like 2-foot sections. It's either terracotta tile or it's stainless steel. Pretty much anything else nothing else is proper. So it's either terracotta or stainless steel. You need one of those two in order to contain gases and flames. But yeah, that's the flue. It's the pathway for the smoke to travel.
So what you're basically saying is, even if somebody decides, which is not the best thing to do, is waive a chimney inspection completely, but if they happen to do that in order to win a bid on a house, before anybody starts a fire, if they know nothing about fireplaces, they should at least get a simple inspection. This makes sure that it's okay to use the fireplace. And most of the time, I would assume, if I'm buying a house from 1940, let's just say it's had 3 owners, okay?
Yep.
The first owner lived there for 40 years, okay? So now we're in 1980. They sold the house. The person that bought it in 1980 was still old school, so they knew what they were doing. They did their proper inspection. They got a cleaning. They sold it in 1995 to another person, okay? That other person never used the fireplace. So now they want to sell it in 2021. So now that's 26 years of a fireplace not being used. Now, I'm a new owner. What do I want to do? If I'm buying a house that hasn't had usage in the fireplace for 26 years, fireplace itself is over 80 years old. So what do I want to do?
So anytime that there's a transfer of property, you have to have a level 2 inspection. You don't know anything about it. You want us to come in, you want us to look at it in depth, see if there's any issues, see if there's any buildup, see if there's any blockages, and just make sure it's safe to use. Because when it comes down to it, you're playing with fire, right?
Yeah, literally.
No pun intended.
Right. Absolutely intended. Yeah. So, the whole waiving in this current housing market, waiving an inspection in order to get the house, in my mind, is completely fine. As long as you know that after you sign the paperwork, and you go home for the first time and you start painting your walls and moving your furniture in, you also really should do those inspections that you waived, because they're a health and safety issue. Just because you waive the inspection doesn't mean that there's no problems.
Yeah, it's almost like you're kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit.
Right. I completely understand, waive the inspection so you can get the house, so you can close sooner, and someone doesn't swoop in with cash. I mean, when we bought this house went on the market. It's like in the COVID lull, where nothing was really going on the market because no one knew what was going on, so there was nothing for sale kind of, but this house was for sale. So we hit the market, we went out and looked at it. We put in an offer 2 hours later, for $5,000 over asking, with a 3% seller's concession, which Chris can get into all that stuff. But $5,000 above asking price, and by the next day they had 3 cash backup offers. So, but everyone's backup offer was for asking price, and so we were first and we were $5,000 over. So I think that's why they went with us. If you have to waive an inspection in order to get the house, go for it. But absolutely, once you get the house, get it inspected and be prepared that there might be expensive repairs that need to be done.
Which makes a lot of sense. A fireplace isn't just something where you can get a log and light it on fire. So there's a lot to it, and there's maintenance. So if you're actively using now, let's just say you did everything the right way. You did your initial chimney inspection, you did your sweep, you cleaned it, you're in good standing. So now I'm a homeowner. I got a good fireplace. What am I supposed to do once I use my fireplace for a winter? Obviously, I'm going to close it during the summer because usually there's a latch in there. You got to open up a latch in order to let the smoke go out. Yes. Obviously, you're in very bad shape if you forget to open up that latch.
You only forget once.
Literally, you do only forget once.
And so, the latch is a damper.
That's what it's called, the damper?
That's what it's called, yeah.
All right, see, we're learning. It's a damper. So that latch is a damper. So now, obviously, during the summer, I'm closing that damper. So now I'm going into winter number 2. You know, I'm a city-it, but I get it. I did my chimney inspection. I did my cleaning. Yep. My family and I didn't burn the house down. We were able to enjoy our fireplace because I called Devin at Jimminy Chimney Sweep and he definitely hooked us up. And now, second year, do I have to have you come do an inspection before I do it, or do I have some time before you come back again?
Okay, so NFPA code says that every flue should be inspected yearly, at least once a year. And we're looking for buildup, we're looking for blockages, we're looking for animal nests. If you have a cap with a screen on it, you really don't have to worry about the nests. But you should have it inspected yearly. No one's gonna hold your feet to the fire on that one, but you definitely want to have it inspected after the first season. And the reason I say that is we come in, we do your real estate inspection, we do your level 2 inspection when you purchase the house. You deem that the fireplace is good to use or the wood stove is good to use, or we say it's dirty, it needs to be cleaned, or there's any kind of, maintenance that we have to do. We clean it, right? Now we have a baseline. We know it's clean. If you burn for one season, if I come back and look at it, I can say, okay, look, your burning habits, the amount of wood that you burned, if you damped the stove down or not, you didn't create a lot of creosote, or you did create a lot of creosote, and you either have to get it swept yearly or twice a year, or maybe call me back in 2 years. And we can kind of come up with a schedule that best suits you and your burning habits and like how frequently you use the fireplace or the wood stove. Because not everyone burns every night.
Right. It could just be like a weekly thing or twice a week.
Exactly.
Now, if I'm burning, and let's just say I go 3 years without giving you a call, do I have any signs that it's like, oh, I need to give somebody a call, or is it all hidden and I really won't notice until there's an actual problem?
It's all hidden. Like I said, the chimney is the most overlooked part of the house. You own a home, right? Both of you do.
Right.
When was the last time either one of you stuck your head in your chimney and looked up it?
We bought the house and we did a regular inspection. Yep. We were in one of those cases where we had to close relatively quickly. Right. So we just did a regular inspection. But before we even thought about turning on a fire, we did get a chimney inspection. And all it needed was a cleaning. So the guy came, he did his cleaning. And his advice was, you don't need to. Now, this is Pennsylvania. It might be different than New York. He basically said, if you're going to use it every single day, probably give me a call next year. If you're going to use it once a week, once every other week, which we're bi-weekly users with the fireplace pretty much. He said, you really don't have to stress too much, maybe 2 years, 3 years, and then give him a call again. Now, he was also on the brink of retiring, so it might be one of those things, call me, I'm not even going to help you. I might as well just find somebody else kind of thing. But
my problem.
The guy was very nice. He was reasonably priced. He did give us he said maybe like 2 or 3 years with the usage that we would be using it.
I definitely think that he gave you good advice. However, I want to see it after a year, because you could take you have a fireplace?
I do, yes.
Okay. So I haven't been to your house yet. Like, where are you?
I mean, I'm on 4 acres of land. It's kind of like, woodsy.
Okay. So So your house, it burns a specific way in the woods. If you took your house and you put it on top of a mountain, it would burn completely different, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Is that because of the elevation, or is that because of like just the surrounding area? Like there's more.
It's environmental. It's not elevation at all. It's environmental. But if you're surrounded by a bunch of trees, you don't have a lot of wind passing over the top of the chimney, so you don't have as much negative pressure on the chimney.
We're actually kind of I wouldn't say we're like on a very big mountain, but we are on a mountain, and it does get relatively windy. So when you're in a place where it's more windy, it's different than if it's a place that's on lower ground that's not on a mountain, is what you're saying.
It can be, yeah. It can be completely different.
What if you're by the water? Does that make a difference?
It's usually windier on the water.
I can hire you to look at my chimney.
Yeah, you can't afford me to come down there. I would charge door to door for you.
Well, you know what I'll do? I'll knock on all the neighbors' doors because everybody here has a fireplace, and I'll get you 5 or 6 chimneys to take a peek at.
I do it. If you're outside of my territory and you want me, we have a couple of customers that do this. They call up in the spring and they say, okay, the neighborhood wants you. Give me 3 days. So we give them 3 days and a little bit further out. And then they organize it with themselves, what order I'm going to, who I'm going to. And then they call me back and I go out there for the day. We do it.
But I'm also going to wine and dine you. You can stay at my place. We can have some fun. I'll even have Ernesto come. We'll play some beer pong.
You have a hot tub, right?
I do, but that's something that we have not used. Oh. Yeah. I'll let you take the hot tub. So how about this? Clean my chimney. You can take the hot tub.
Listen, I just put I don't know how many hours into the pool getting the pool up and going. I don't want another body of water.
Wait, you got a pool now?
Yeah, it came with the house. Well, it came with a swamp. It's now a pool.
That is awesome. Tom, he has a 2-family house. He doesn't have a fireplace.
No.
So Tom, I'll actually let you take over. So like what if Tom wanted a fireplace? And I know you had a couple of questions on wood stoves and fireplaces, which may also help a couple of our listeners.
So like my house was originally designed for a wood stove. It's got a brick corner in it that a wood stove would normally sit in, and it's got like the hole in the brick that you would vent the wood stove up through. That has not been used since long before I bought the house. Let's say I wanted to get a wood stove and I wanted to get that up and running. What would the kind of inspection entail, like as far as that goes, versus like, like a chimney or something like that? Would it be any different, or would it be the same kind of thing where you're looking at like, the vent and everything else?
Yeah, so I would come out. I may have you send me pictures, actually. You got my number, text me pictures. But I'd get pictures from you, or I'd come out and I'd see what's going on. You have a wood stove in place right now? No,
I'm saying if okay. that section, I don't have a wood stove there, but there's okay. like a hole and a cover and stuff that the wood stove once sat in.
And is it venting into a masonry chimney?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's super simple. Basically, I come out, I check it out, I make sure that the integrity of the chimney is good. I may throw a camera up through the flue to make sure there's no cracks in the masonry chimney. I'm going to look at the exterior of the chimney, make sure there's no deterioration. Chimneys deteriorate from the top down. Water's a chimney's worst enemy. So what happens is masonry is porous. It's like a sponge. You wouldn't really think that, but it actually soaks up water. So when it rains, water sits on top of the chimney, soaks into the chimney, and then in the Northeast, it freezes in the winter. So when the water freezes, it expands, cracks the masonry, and then it thaws, and the water drips down deeper into the crack, and then it freezes and expands, and it just over time breaks down the chimney. So I'm going to come out and make sure that the chimney is structurally sound, that the interior of the flue has no cracks in it. I'm going to make sure that you have a cap, and if you don't, we're gonna suggest that you put a cap on it, probably with a screen to keep animals out. It keeps rain out of the flue. If you put a 5-gallon bucket outside and it rains. Mm-hmm. And then you go look at it and there's, inches of water in that bucket, right? Mm-hmm. Think about your flue, which is an 8x8 hole or a 12x12 hole or a bunch of different combinations, but those are the 2 common ones. Think about that without a cap and it rains. You're getting inches of water into your house.
Yeah, it's just going to stay right in the rock there, right in the brick.
Yeah. So definitely I'm going to suggest cap, and then we're going to look at stove options. It sounds like, in your case, it sounds like you have a tiled hearth set up. So we're going to look at stove options that can fit on that hearth, that have, appropriate clearances to combustibles. Mm-hmm. And we're going to look at the size of your house, the square footage of your house, and kind of the layout of your house, and see what size stove we need to produce the most heat so that you benefit the most from that stove.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And now having the experience in the business, are you a fireplace guy or a wood stove guy?
I'm a wood stove guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that just because that's like the more modern design, or is that?
You know about the shoemaker that doesn't have shoes? It's like an old nursery tale or rhyme or something. I don't know. Basically, basically the shoemaker doesn't have time to make his own shoes, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to spend the time stoking fire after work, dealing with a wood stove or a fireplace after work, carrying wood into the house after work, I want to get as much heat as possible out of that piece of wood, right?
That's fair.
So basically, in order to have a fire, you need 3 things. You need heat, you need fuel, which in this case is wood, and you need oxygen. Okay. So in a fireplace, you have usually traditionally in a more modern home in the last 70 years, you have a 2 foot by 3 foot opening on your fireplace. So that fireplace is sucking in as much oxygen as it wants. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to burn that fuel. It's going to burn that wood as fast as it can to keep up with the oxygen flow in that 2 by 3 foot hole. So you're going to burn through the wood super quick.
Ah, I see.
In a wood stove, so in a wood stove, you have a door with a gasket on it that you seal, and then you have an air control. So you control how much air is getting into the stove, and you actually slow the burn down, and you get more heat out of the wood that you're putting in the unit.
Okay, so that's basically the main advantage of a wood stove. Then it's a more controlled burn, whereas Absolutely. The fireplace, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever the opening is and what the airflow is in the room.
I mean, there's more to that too. Also, you heat with oil or gas for your main heat source.
My main heat source is oil.
Okay, so you're spending all this money on oil to heat your house, to keep your house around, like whatever, 60s, 70s, whatever. Mm-hmm. You're spending money on oil, and then that warm air in your house is going to feed your fire and going up and out the flue.
Ah, so it's already warm.
Yeah, so you're just you're spending all this money heating air that you're just feeding your fire with more and wasting, right? And then the other thing too is a wood stove is actually like a metal box, right? If you just break it down to the nuts and bolts, it's a metal box, and the metal box heats up and will radiate heat out as well. So a fireplace is warm when you're right in front of it, but a wood stove will radiate heat further into the room and actually heat the room.
Okay.
So there's a lot of advantages for a wood stove, and that's why I would 100% go with a wood stove over a fireplace.
Now, how hard is it? Let's say it is just out of curiosity, if I had a fireplace, because like my parents, for example, have a fireplace in their house. Yep. If they wanted to convert it to a wood stove, right? What's involved in that? So
anytime you put a wood stove, whether it's a freestanding wood stove or an insert's a wood stove that's designed specifically for a fireplace. So it sits in the fireplace. There's no legs on it. It's usually pretty flush mount. So it has a trim collar that goes around the wood stove so that it takes up the gap between the wood stove and the fireplace opening.
Oh, okay. So it's like specifically designed to be like a conversion unit type.
Exactly. So you have the insert or a freestanding. You can put either one of them through the fireplace flue. You just have to make sure that you have the appropriate size hearth in front of the stove. And you'd also have to reline the fireplace chimney with a stainless steel liner.
Okay.
It's all pretty straightforward. Usually not that big of a deal to do.
Okay. Very interesting.
So let me ask you this. If somebody had a house that was already built, all right, and then I'm going to get on to another question that kind of goes with this. Can you add a full fireplace to a house that's already there, and can you build a new one off to the side of the house or build one in the middle of it? Or is it basically once the house is built, it's done and wood stove is really your only option?
Anything is possible with enough money.
Yeah.
I mean, just straight up.
Is it all right? So let's just say you do have a house that's built, a single family home. Yeah. And you do want another source of heat than just like either your electric or oil heat. Is it better to go the wood stove route, or is it possible to build, a fireplace on the side of the house? Obviously building one in the middle of the house is not going to happen, but one on the side of the house. What's better? And is it a huge cost difference, or is it just more of a preference? Do you want this or that?
I mean, there's a lot of variables in that question. There's factory made prefab fireplaces that are just metal boxes. You cut a hole in the wall, you screw this metal box to some studs. I mean, it's a little more complicated than this, but essentially you do that, you throw up a metal chimney and you put a chase around it. Or you could cut a hole in the wall, pour a foundation for a masonry chimney outside, put up a chimney, build a fireplace. Super labor intensive, gonna cost a lot of money. Going back to a little bit earlier, a wood stove is going to be more efficient than a fireplace. So it's also going to be probably absolutely more cost effective too, to just put in a wood stove. Put up a class A chimney is a metal chimney opposed to a masonry chimney. We just did a class A chimney today. Someone's getting a wood stove. It's a new home build. I think we showed up at 8:30 and we were done by 1, and we put up a 30-foot chimney.
Oh, wow.
Right. So you buy the parts, all you have to do is assemble them, put them together.
That's really cool.
Whereas if you build a masonry chimney, it's going to be weeks or months, depending on, how tall, how big,
I wonder if a masonry chimney wasn't what was done at my house, because it looks like that the brick that they put on the inside is almost like on top of the wall. It almost looks like they like kind of started where the sheetrock ended and then put the bricks on the inside. And then on the outside of the house, I actually had to use the masonry caulk and recaulk it because like at one point it looked like it was actually kind of coming away from the outside of the house. So like I wonder if they didn't add a masonry chimney to my house like after the fact.
Potentially, I think you have cement blocks, right, for your chimney?
No, mine's brick. It's brick all the way up.
Okay. So a lot of people see the chimney falling away from their house and freak out. Code says that there has to be a 2-inch gap between the chimney and the siding of the house or anything combustible. So
really?
Yeah. If you start looking at houses when you're driving down the street, hardly any houses have that because I don't know if it's builders just don't know and building inspectors, to give the C of O on the house don't care. I don't know if it's that or if it's people coming after and if it's say, oh, my chimney's pulling away from the house, I need to seal this gap up, which is probably more likely what it is. But yeah, 2 inches. Chimney's supposed to be 2 inches from combustibles.
Wow. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess on the first floor of my house is like kind of poured cement. So I mean, I guess I could kind of.
So it can touch.
Yeah. So it can touch. Yeah. That's where I put the caulk. But yeah, it's wood siding all the rest of the way up. I never actually looked at it there. So
it's supposed to be an air gap.
Oh, well, it's a good thing I didn't caulk that part. Yeah.
But, so I got a couple more questions before we go into some fun questions that Tom and I came up with. So we just signed up with a new bank. What this bank allows us to do, it allows us to do a land purchase and a full 100% construction build as long as the after repair value is either 70% or 80% loan to value after the build. What people are able to do is do a single family purchase of land and then they can build their single family home. So are you also in the business of brand new construction of the chimney on the first build, or is that up to the general contractor to actually build the initial chimney? Do you get involved with initial build? So like the contractors out there, is this like a call like, hey, contractor, if you need to build a house or if you're renovating a whole house, call me? Or is it buyer homeowner, call me? Do you work with both?
We work with both. So the job that I did today was for the contractor. He's on this house for a year, probably building this, exquisite house. And just, any contractor probably could throw up a chimney, doing a little research about what code is. But a lot of the times they have so much on their plate, they will just call us and have us do it for them. Absolutely. So yeah, we get both. We get homeowners and we get contractors. There's a couple contractors that we work with exclusively. Like they don't work with any other chimney sweep. And anytime anything chimney related comes up, they're just like, here you go, call Jimmy Peak. We want nothing to do with it. These are the guys. So yeah, we work with both.
Let's just say somebody doesn't want to use their fireplace ever again. Is there something where they close it up and they let it go? Do you do demolition of fireplace? And then do you do the roof renovation to show no fireplace at all? I'll never forget. We completely demolished the fireplace in one of our
in the middle of the house
old homes in South Carolina. It wasn't in the middle of the house. It was off to the side, but we basically just pulled it down. And then
time out. You lived in South Carolina?
Yeah, I lived in South Carolina for a year right after college.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You see what I did there, right?
Timeout. That's our line. Yeah.
Yeah, timeout's our line.
I didn't even realize that until after. Yeah, I've taken down masonry chimneys. I've taken down Class A metal chimneys for sure. If you have a big fireplace, probably not going to do that kind of demo work. If it's in the middle of the house, call a contractor, call a handyman, call a mason, call someone other than me. But
you basically do it all, though. You install them, you inspect them, you clean them, and if need be, you can demolish them. You basically do it all.
What we usually do, if you know that you're not going to be using a flue, or like a lot of houses are built, they'll have a fireplace and then they'll have maybe in the basement a flue that's not really used for anything. But when they build the house, they'll put it in so that you have the ability to do something later on. What we do in that case is we just put what we call a knockoff plate on the top of the chimney, where we seal the top of the chimney so animals can't get in, rainwater can't get in, and there's no transfer of air. And transfer of air is a big one. And we just silicone down a plate, and if you ever want the plate taken off, if you ever want to use the flue, we just run up there and just stick a knife in there and cut the silicone off, and you can use the flue again. So you're not completely if you want to go sell your house, I hear if you have a wood stove in your house, it raises the value of your house $5,000.
So
That
what's
makes
actually
sense.
your advice to sellers? If I'm selling a house, rather than not doing anything with the chimney beforehand and just selling it as is, isn't it smart for me to call you and say, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna sell this house. Clean it so that it looks pristine." Right? Wouldn't that be the best thing for sellers to do?
Yes. So I'm sure you're aware that there's a lot of people trying to get the price of a house down because, oh, this is wrong and that's wrong and this is bad. And right. So like people try to knock the price down. A lot of sellers will actually call me, have me clean it, have me write that that I cleaned it, that I inspected it, whatever I did, have me write it down, which I do no matter what anyway, because they want to present it to the buyer and say, hey, look, you can't bring in some shisty person that's gonna, you can't pay someone to say what you want because I have this other reputable source saying that everything's clean, everything's good, and we're good to go. So
That's a good point. Yeah,
yeah,
because if I were a buyer and I were looking to take some money off, that's probably something I would do is I'd point to the chimney and be like, well, when's the last time that this was serviced or anything like that?
So case in point, I went to a house last week, right? This lady's buying this house, $1.5 million cash.
Oh, wow.
The house is built. Actually, the house has got a crazy story. The house is built in the 1700s. So the seller said, "Oh yeah, I had a chimney sweep come look at it last week. He said everything's fine. You can light. There's 3 fireplaces, and then one of the like weird thing, whatever. There's 3 fireplaces. He said you can come in. You can light all 3 fireplaces. They're all good to go. No worries, right?" So she called me up as the buyer. She called me up, and I went and did a level 2 inspection, which is because there's a real estate transaction. Throw a camera up all the flues. Sure enough, 1700s house. None of the flues are lined, which is not to code. One of them has a massive blockage in it that is another pipe that's buried in a wall. So a lot of times, yes. So in the attic, the 3rd story, they had a breach, which is a hole into the chimney, and they had a wood stove going into the breach and going out the fireplace flue. The new owner had sheetrocked over the chimney upstairs, covering the breach, so we didn't know the breach existed. But he had left the pipe in the chimney, and it was blocking the fireplace flue. So if anyone lit a fire in that fireplace, the gases would fill up the chimney and then start pouring back into the room because they couldn't get out the top.
And that's all hidden. You would not.
It's all hidden.
You would not see that.
No, I looking up it, I couldn't see it at all. I put a camera up it, and then I could find the problem. But the thing is, the seller had in quotes, had a chimney sweep come last week and say that everything's fine. You can have a fire in all 3 fireplaces.
Wow.
So yeah, so make sure you get it inspected if you're the buyer. If you're the seller, have it cleaned, have it serviced. That way they can't have make you do that, and have it inspected. That way you have a receipt to show that, hey, look, I had this work done. Everything's good to go. And then it keeps you both honest,
So one more serious question before Tom and I start to have a little fun with you. So the lining, surprisingly enough, in New Jersey, I don't get a lot of clients that have fireplaces in their home. So I had one last year where there was a lining issue. They ended up working out something with the seller because they actually negotiated a credit, or they got a really good deal. And I don't know. It was something that there was lining in the fireplace that was an issue. So if you need to redo the lining on a fireplace, what's the normal cost of just redoing the lining? Because the lining is obviously very important, because that's what covers the difference between the brick or the stone from the fumes in the fire, correct?
Yes. Okay. It's a very, very difficult question to answer, because the size of the liner can change the price of the liner drastically. The height of the liner can change it. And then the kind of stainless steel that we're using can change it. So like I can use a 304 stainless steel on wood, but I need a 316 stainless steel for oil, right? So it's 316 is a higher grade stainless steel, so it costs more money. A 5-inch liner is going to be significantly cheaper than a 10-inch liner.
All right, so that's a pretty complicated question, but lining replacement could be a very big deal, costs a lot of money, and potentially a make it or break it for a real estate deal. So what I'm really trying to say is that a chimney, or a fireplace, though it may be the smallest part of the house, it could be a make it or break it on a deal if you ever want to actually use the fireplace.
Absolutely. And markets all over the country will change too. But here, Hudson Valley, if you have a 2-story home and you have a fireplace in a normal, like 2 foot by 3 foot opening in a normal, what we call 13 by 13 flue, which is like, we're talking like this is the most standard thing that we come across here. If you had to reline that, you would be like $5,000, give or take, depending on access and termination. Yeah.
So that's a substantial, that's like a
and like
substantial cost.
And it's a big give or take. Like it can be like anywhere from like 3 to, I mean, I do see quotes from some competitors upwards of 10, but I come in a little bit lower than they do on those ones. So, it can be, and no matter what you do, whether it's with your chimney or with any other maintenance on your house, get multiple quotes.
Oh yeah.
Don't just call me, because you'll see that everyone else is more expensive and I use better products.
We're using a fireplace. A guy from New York City, got my Staten Island wife who wants to burn every single thing rather than throw it in the garbage.
No.
Tell me what I can and what I can't burn. Like, I know I can burn wood. Can I burn cardboard? Can I burn the boxes of all the stuff I bought from, because she makes me shop at Costco. She won't let me shop anywhere else, so I have to shop at Costco. So now I have all these boxes and cardboard of all the stuff I had to buy in bulk. Can I burn all of that? Or is it like, don't do that, just throw it away?
What you can, yes, you may burn, is wood. Split wood.
What else?
Split seasoned wood. That's it.
What about cardboard?
No.
What about bills I don't want to pay?
No. Your fireplace is not an incinerator. If you use it as an incinerator, you're going to have a bad time.
Now, to get into the types of wood, are there types of wood that I can't burn?
So you want to stick with hardwoods. You want to stick with, so around us here, there's a lot of dead ash these days because of the ash beetle. Ash is great. It burns hot. It's dry. You can basically cut down ash that day and burn it. Basically, you want to get wood. You want to cut it. You want to split it. You want to stack it. You want to cover it. You just want to cover the top, not the sides. And you want to let it sit for at least 6 months, if not a year, before you burn it.
Oh, wow.
You want a moisture content that's like below 20%, around the 15%. You can get a moisture meter from Home Depot or Lowe's or Amazon or wherever you shop.
Amazon.
Not Amazon. Don't shop at Amazon. For $20, you can get a moisture meter. I got a customer that weighs his wood and has a log and logs it. And then a month later, we'll go weigh wood from the same pile and log it and see how much weight he's lost to see how much moisture he's lost. And he's the only one that I've ever known to do that.
That seems like a pretty solid idea, though. You do have some woods like that are real sappy and real wet, like pine and stuff. You got a ton of pine around here. You got to let pine sit for a while. You've got to let pine sit for a long time. Pine's usually not the best thing to burn because it has a higher moisture content. But you absolutely can if you do it right. But number one cause of chimney fires is greasy pizza boxes.
No kidding.
Yeah. So what happens is
New Yorkers and pizza.
My dad used to. I mean, that sucks for me. But like, listen, my dad used to burn everything.
The number one day for chimney fires, any guesses? Christmas.
Yeah.
Everyone unwraps all the presents, throws the wrapping paper in the fireplace, the wood stove, and at the end lights it on fire. So what happens is when you have a summer's worth of junk mail, right? Or you have a day worth of Christmas paper, or you have a pizza box, you have a loose paper or loose cardboard, you have a really tall flame. That tall flame gets up into the flue and ignites the creosote that's in the flue, because creosote's flammable, right? So I come in and I sweep the creosote out. I get the flammable material out of the flue. So creosote's flammable. So when you get a tall flame, it ignites the creosote burns, and you have a chimney fire. With a chimney fire, you have thermal shock, which ends up breaking something in the chimney. And then
what's a thermal shock? Is that something getting really hot really fast?
Yep, exactly. And so your fireplace or your wood stove is meant to have 600, 1,000 degree temperatures. Your flue can't handle that kind of temperatures. So when it heats up to that kind of temperature super fast, you get a crack in a tile, you get a separation in pipes, and then now you have a pathway for gases or a flame to travel, and either you get carbon monoxide poisoning or your house burns down.
Right. Yeah. Or it needs insulation or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So just only burn wood. Use a piece of paper or two, crumpled up nice and tight, and a little bit of kindling, and that's it. Once the fire starts, once the wood's burning, don't touch any other paper.
Just wood. Don't put anything else in there. Either recycle, put in the garbage, and don't put it in the fireplace.
Correct.
If you want to have a good time.
If you want to have a good time. If you want to keep your bank statement secret, buy a shredder. That's it.
Listen, I know that's what a lot of people do. They think they can just burn anything and it's okay. So it's wood. It's wood, and wood. That's it.
That's it.
All right, great.
May I ask my question now? Thank you.
Yes, you may.
No, thanks. But no, one of my questions was like, in terms of like the actual like cleaning process, like chimney sweeping, right? I probably a lot of people have this idea of like, like this Dickensian kid, like getting shoved up the chimney and like just scrubbing it down with like a broom or something. Like what is the cleaning process actually like that? Like you just need to get like an abrasive thing up inside of it and scrub it out, or are there like machines for stuff like that now? Or it's all manpower at this point still?
I don't think a robot will ever replace me, honestly. I bring in a vacuum, I tarp off the fireplace, the vacuum's there for dust control, and just like Bert from Mary Poppins, I have a brush on a rod. It's the exact same brush, and there are 3-foot rods, and I click the rods together and I scrub the inside of the chimney. That's it.
Wow.
It's pretty simple, but there's a lot that we're looking for while we're in there too. But yeah, I should send you guys, I'm gonna see if I can pull up this video and send it to you. You could maybe like stick it in the show notes or something, but it's about like chimney sweeps and from the beginning of time, and it's a good video. It's a really good video. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, having been doing it in the Hudson Valley for a while, like there's, as we kind of touched on it before, but there's a lot of houses from a lot of different eras in this area. You've got the ones that were built, after kind of the IBM boom in like the 60s, and then you've got ones way older than that, like turn of the century, like the Sears kit houses, and then you've also got, even before that, you have like the Revolutionary era houses and everything. In terms of the chimneys involved in like some of the oldest houses that you've seen, like are there any that like stick out that were like particularly bizarre, like back in the days before building codes when there were regulations and things like that? Like was there anything you saw that just truly kind of stood out to you?
Bizarre? I don't know about bizarre anymore. I mean, there's some crazy, like, due to building codes, code at one point said a chimney had to go out the peak of the roof. Another, and then they switched to that it couldn't come out the peak. So I guess one of the most bizarre things is if you go into attics of old houses, the chimney will like be super slanted. What happened is they would design the house and they'd have the fireplace in the living room somewhere, like whatever room the fireplace was in. And then they would have to meet code and either come out the peak or come out a couple feet down from the peak or whatever, or they would just design the house that the chimney's over here. And the mason would come in, build the fireplace, and work their way up. And then at some point they'd have to get the chimney from one side of the house to the other house, and they would hide it in the attic where no one would see it. So, I mean, I've seen chimneys go almost absolutely horizontal in an attic before.
It's like they started at one point in the house and they had to end at the other, and they just had to make them meet somewhere.
Yep. And they just had to make that connection in the attic, no matter what happened. Well, actually, one of the craziest ones though is I think it was happening in like the 50s and 60s, and I see it in Kingston. I don't see it outside of Kingston at all. But there's a lot of hot water heaters and some oil burners. So hot water heaters can either be electric, gas, oil. They vent as well through a chimney. There's a lot of them in Kingston that they just blew a hole in the block foundation and stuck a pipe into the foundation, and there is no chimney.
Wow. That doesn't seem like a particularly good idea.
It's not a good idea at all. So luckily, the hot water heater is not producing as much gases as, say, a fireplace or your main heat source like your oil burner would. But you're still just pumping carbon monoxide into the foundation of the house, and it's not going anywhere. So
yeah, it's got to rise, right? So like to come out the foundation seems like it would be kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's going to be coming out of the masonry wherever it can. Back into the house most likely, because on the other side of the foundation in a basement is dirt. So yeah, make sure you have carbon monoxide detectors, not just because of chimney related issues, just because it's a good thing to have in your house. Make sure you have batteries in your carbon monoxide detectors, and get your chimneys inspected yearly.
That's a good point. You know, I feel like enough people don't probably check their smoke detectors and their carbon monoxide detectors.
No, most people, when it beeps because the battery's dead, they take the battery out because it's annoying. I don't want to listen to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the key
and
is
of course they want that one battery that you never have as a backup. You know, it's
Right.
like it'd be one thing if it was a AA or a AAA. It wants that one with like the weird looking nipples.
Yeah.
So
the 9-volt,
the 9-volt, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could say I'm guilty of that. The one house I was renting the one night, I feel like the smoke. I think it was a smoke alarm went off, and this girl whose name I don't remember, but she just ripped it off the wall and threw it down the stairs. And as it bounced down the stairs, it like warbled like out of tune. You know, it was like wee, wee. And then as it went down, it was like wee, wee, and we all thought it was like the funniest thing, and that was it. It was the funniest thing of the night, and then that was it. There was no smoke detector. The house went on fire after that. Like that was it.
Not good.
Yeah.
So you must have seen or been working on chimneys of all sizes. I have one question for you. How does Santa actually fit in all those chimneys?
So Santa actually has magic, which we do not have. So he can shrink down to get into any size flue. You know, even if the flue is attached to a wood stove, because like you think about it, your wood stove's closed, it has a gasket on it, the door's locked, and there's that small air vent that you open and close in order to, you know, let the air in. He can actually shrink down through that as well. And even if there's a fire going, he's safe. He doesn't get burned. The only thing that actually can harm Santa is creosote, which is why, you know, if there's any kids listening, make sure your parents call a chimney sweep annually for their inspection and to get their chimney cleaned so that Santa, you know, can get through nice and clean.
Well, that's why I asked that, because Santa recommends only one chimney sweep company, and that's Jimminy Peak. And he says that he only really wants to go down one chimney this year, and it's only chimneys that have been inspected and swept by Jimminy Peak. So kids, tell your parents
no Christmas this year.
Tell Santa when you talk to him next time to send me some L's, because I'm gonna need some help cleaning all these chimneys.
You know, that would actually be a great marketing campaign, by the way, where like you just send postcards to all of homeowners that you know have kids, and it's just like Santa's only coming to these houses.
Don't worry, I tell every kid I see.
That's awesome.
It's just a picture of Santa like frantically hitting the embers off himself, like, "You did this to me, Bobby."
You didn't get your chimney cleaned, and now I'm burnt.
If your PlayStation 4 doesn't work this year, it's on you.
So we're getting close to the time here. The one advice that we got from a lot of our listeners was, Chris, tried to keep it under an hour. We're doing our best, but
I think we're over an hour now.
Yeah, we definitely are.
You can edit some out.
No, we'll see. I actually think a lot of the information you gave is worth hearing for anybody that's buying a house, owns a house, selling a house. They really should hear this, because it will help them in the future figure out what they're going to do. And dude, if you want to do a fire in your house, like it's scary. I was one of those people who was nervous doing a fire in the fireplace until it got inspected, because I didn't trust just throwing a piece of wood in there and lighting it on fire, because I'm nervous when it comes to that stuff.
No, that's smart. I mean, that's the best thing that you could have done, honestly. You know, it's better to be safe than sorry.
So to get a little bit more personal now, you're a millennial. We're all millennials. Tom is too. I'm a millennial. You're a millennial in the trade business.
Yes.
Do you ever look back saying to yourself, I wish I went a different direction, or you love this? This is it. Like you're a millennial in the trade. Can I tell you that I wish I learned a trade when I was younger?
Yeah.
It sucks that I didn't.
Honestly, I mean, tradesmen, you have to be diligent. You have to be tradesmen can make money if you know a skill, you know it well, you can make money. You don't have to go to college. And trust me, I went to college and I made garbage money in my field.
What did you go for? What'd you go for? Yeah.
Environmental science.
Ah.
Yeah.
You know what though? I feel like you can use that with like not cleaning a chimney and keep burning. It's environmental, right?
Wood is the most renewable resource we have.
Wood.
Wood. Yep.
Wood.
That's
I
true.
had to say it too because I didn't know the answer.
Wood. Wood is the most renewable resource, and it's super clean to burn if you're doing it properly and you're not using a stove from the 80s because they're horrible. Get a new modern stove that's EPA certified, that has secondary burn chambers, and you're good to go. It's a great, clean, sometimes free heat. Actually, the thing about wood is the only fuel that heats you twice. Once when you cut and stack it, and once when you burn it.
I like that.
Well, you said something very interesting before, is that you're not going to be replaced by any form of technology. There's not going to be this automated chimney sweep, right? So what I actually do want you to tell our listeners today is that trades such as this one, which again, you kind of put on the back, buyers, sellers put secondary, which shouldn't be. Everyone should be getting an inspection done prior to buying a house. It's a super important factor to
absolutely
purchasing a home. So this particular inspection is something that can't be replaced with automation. So because that's the case, this trade is super important, and it just solidifies how we're all telling our children, college, you got to do this, this, and that. But the trade of this particular skill is super important because there's a demand for it.
There's an absolute demand for it. All the trades are starving for apprentices to come in, for people to start working for them. You can make pretty decent money training, like learning how to do something. Whereas when you go to college, you pay to learn, right? If you get into a trade, you're getting paid to learn. You're going to be, I mean, we could have another hour discussion about this, but colleges are for profit. They're going to tell you that you need to go to college. And for some people, college is great. For other people, it's not. But trades have been on the decline for years. People going into trades, and the more kids that get into trades now who just can't sit in a classroom and read a book, the better off they're going to be.
You're absolutely right about colleges becoming straight up. It's a money grab, especially after this whole COVID thing, and it could be remote learning, and yet it's not, and tuition going up.
We talked about that last week. That was
I missed last week.
It's actually not
live
yet.
It's not coming out yet.
It's coming out this Sunday. So but
I
again,
still missed last week's.
You're going
next week.
You're going to be now at some point you're going to be looking for an apprentice. Let's find you that apprentice. People who are listening, if you're interested in something like this, call Devin, because
honestly, if you're in the area and you're interested, call me. It's on the back burner right now because I have so much going on, but I need to hire. So if you hear this, give me a call. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the trade is a skill. The trade is a skill, obviously.
Trade is a skill.
Trade is a skill. The trade is a skill. So
there's a lot to know too.
And there's nothing better than learning from somebody who learned from their father. And this is a company that's been from, going on since 1977. So listen, Devin, this was awesome. I think we did a great interview. You answered a lot of questions. I think anybody that is purchasing a home and listens to this is going to learn a lot and realize that they should give you a call. And if they're not in the state of New York and they're somewhere else, it'll at least prompt them to call somebody in your field to look at this. There's a very big importance of doing a fireplace inspection, a chimney inspection before purchasing a house. And it shouldn't be something that I'm just going to look into it later, especially if you want to utilize it. Because most of the time people see a fireplace, I'd say about 80% want to use it. So if you want to use it, you should follow the right steps to do so, because most people like me, 6'2", really, good light man from New York City working, we don't really know how to use fireplaces. So before we put that log in, or before we burn that pizza box, we should give you a call.
Honestly, I had a friend this winter, a good friend of mine, have a chimney fire because he burned a pizza box.
I will never burn a pizza box again. If there's people who are like, you know what, I'm not going to burn this pizza box, I'm just going to throw it away, then they really learned something from this.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Throw it away.
I feel like that's on the fault of the fireplace, though. Like, why you got to be so wide and perfectly accommodate a pizza box if you can't burn it? God damn it!
I think you need to blame the pizzeria for putting that much grease on the pizza.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Devin. Just so we don't sidetrack, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Definitely, we got a lot of really good content out of this. So
yeah,
I think
we're not even
be a
going
good
to.
episode.
Yeah, this was a really good episode. So thank you so much. We'll have to have you on again at some point. I guess we'll see you soon. I want to see you soon. It's been a while.
You got to come check out the house still. Both of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And you got to come to Pennsylvania too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How far is that?
We'll rent the car. I'll drive.
All right. Deal.
We'll go down to the
Later, buddy. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, take it easy, buddy. Have a good one.
Yeah. Bye.
Tommy.
What's up?
That actually went good.
Well, that's good. All right. I'm out of here. I'm going to bed.
Thanks a lot, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, bye.
Well, that puts us at an hour.
Just a little bit over as usual.
Well, yeah, we're not clock watchers, right?
No.
But, yeah, definitely want to thank Devin for coming on today and, repping the chimney sweep game. I have his number here. So Jimminy Peak Chimney Sweep is the business. The website, www.jimminy.peak. That's JIMMINY peak.com. Definitely check them out. Their phone number, if anyone's interested, want to give them a call, it's 845-338-0704. So again, thanks, Devin. Thank you all for listening. Everybody get your chimneys cleaned and have a good night.
Take care, everyone. See you next week.